I'm mainly occupied with research and art creation, and I've been mainly working in the realm of digital art and AI art recently. What AI art is, or what art becomes in the age of AI, if we may call it, belongs to a much broader debate, of course. But to make my practice more clear, I can say that I hold a dual understanding of AI. I think first we must resist the mystification of AI as an autonomous agent and as a form of human-like consciousness, because such mystifications blind us to both the real potential and the real dangers. AI is a tool, and it is one of the most powerful technical inventions of our era and perhaps of all times. It brings real risks: digital bureaucracy, algorithmic control, surveillance, homogenization, the standardization of culture, each already eroding the conditions of creativity. In other words, each already being real threats to human creativity. But AI does not only amplify existential threats, it also amplifies possibilities for survival, growth, and transformation. Co-creation with AI expands the universe of potentials, the field of virtualities available to artists and thinkers, to all of us, actually, who can afford to access these tools. But this expansion also contains a profound paradox. As Plato noted, democracy tends toward governance by the average. And when a magnifying tool amplifies the average, the result is not elevation but regression. Average multiplied by average yields below average. And this is, I think, one of the reasons behind the perceived or even observable global decline in collective intelligence and the rising mediocrity across relational and creative domains. Optimization tools produce the exceptional only as a glitch, accidentally, or in some cases through rare, deliberate misuse, though rare. And when such exceptions occur, when they appear, they often remain invisible to the average observer. This is the problem with the art market today, where the audience perception taste has already been governed by algorithm control. The art market today, where the creativity, the authentic creativity, has already been excluded. And this is not merely a problematic situation, it borders on dystopia. Yet within this tension, there is also something exciting. I've always lived and worked in margins, thresholds, liminal domains, and today humanity stands precisely at such a threshold. We are crossing it at a speed for which we have no historical analogue. So my turn toward AI was not just intentional, it was almost inevitable. Because today this is the threshold we've been crossing. So we necessarily, people who are interested in borders and margins, we necessarily enter into dialogue with it as what makes the threshold of the contemporary era. And here is a crucial point. Art does not inform science and technology. War economies do. It's not the artist, but the military-industrial complex that drives the infrastructures we rely on. The internet, GPS, cybernetics, early AI, image recognition, AR, VR, drones. What artists do, of course, is something radically different. We, artists, creatives, we take technologies born from defense, control, or optimization and repurpose them. We introduce ambiguity, rupture, sensibility, possibilities that their original contexts could not, and in fact don't want to imagine. We shift their meaning by shifting their use, by shifting perspective. But this task has become extremely difficult precisely because the technologies evolve faster than our interpretive framework. Quantum physics taught us, at least metaphorically, that the act of measuring alters the phenomenon. AI art behaves similarly. The moment we try to define it, it transforms because its conditions of possibility evolve faster than our conceptual tools trying to grasp it. In such a world, art can no longer be understood merely as representation or primarily as representation. Representation belongs to stable worlds. We are not living in one. Art responds to its time, and today, in the contemporary world, art becomes a form of wayfinding, a way of learning to move through unstable systems, sensing thresholds, reading the currents, responding to forces that exceed us. In this landscape, artists are not illustrators, but metabolizers of systemic shocks, technological, cultural, psychological, and ontological. We observe turbulence, process it, filter it through sensibility and thought, and translate it into form, performance, and experience. In doing so, art becomes a method of steering through a rapidly shifting reality, a way of preventing collapse under the velocity of change. And this is more or less the core of my curatorial practice. I'm not interested in art of spectacle, numbness, domination, dopamine production and entertainment, or mass hypnosis. I'm interested in art that generates openings, ruptures, differences, new ways of inhabiting the world. I care about thresholds, borders, margins, about the possibility of making home within chaos. This is also why my practice is inherently liminal, situated between research and art creation, between thought and practice. As a researcher, I see a very dark picture emerging, algorithmic control tightening its grip, digital bureaucracy expanding into every intimate domain, mass displacement accelerating, the global systems drifting toward forms of automated governance that erode agency and any kind of freedom one might think of. From the research side, my question is, what is happening now? What kind of structures, what structures are being built? What worlds are being encoded and who is being excluded? Because I'm interested in marginality. But as a curator, as a creative professional, the question shifts entirely. It becomes, what can it be? What spaces of possibility remain open? What forms of difference can still be generated, protected, and perhaps even invented? My role then is not to define as a creator, but to create openings, not to resist in the reactive sense, but to negotiate relentlessly with the mainstream so that difference can survive, breathe, and appear, because I think difference is the very condition of creativity. So on one hand, I see the threat to survival. On the other, I feel the pool of potential, the possibility that even in these conditions, new forms of life, thought, and relation can emerge. My work, therefore, moves between criticism and invention, between recognizing the danger and creating the conditions in which something other than danger can perhaps still take shape. Capitat began back in 2015 as a small artists collective in Tokyo, where I was living, creating and working on my PhD research. But over the years it grew into an initiative dedicated to the arts of the margins, be it outsider art, street art, all sorts of marginal creative practices, including the evolving field of digital and AI-driven creativity. For me personally and professionally, the focus has always been on the threshold, borders, margins, on what happens at the borderlines of form, place, identity, thought and technology. After the pandemic, I brought CapitArt to London, where it continued to develop its unique position in a way at the intersection of philosophy, technology and experimental aesthetics. And last year, around this time, we launched CapitArtX, the digital segment of CapitArt, dedicated specifically to AI art, to AI immersive media and new technological forms, because the recent development of language and diffusion models necessitated this distinction. So simply we follow the call of the contemporary creative landscape and focus more and more on X media and AI art. My curatorial practice is shifting too. I often describe my earlier work as a creatorship of absence, creating from an existential wound, from the borders of non-identity, non-place and non-belonging, as an opposition to a rejection of the norm in order to make the invisible visible, in order to stand for the value of what the mainstream overlooks, denies, excludes, oppresses and even erases. My personal life was marked by displacement. I moved across continents and disciplines. That is why maybe I was taking it so personally. But something changed this year. After a long process of personal reckoning, my practice is moving from absence to emergence as well. From thinking through art to creating with thought. From holding the border in order to exist to allowing the border to speak for itself. It's a major shift, and I believe it has happened now because of the infusion of the AI into the realm of social, increasing the social speed, intensifying, optimizing and magnifying all the connections. In a way, I was not only professionally and socio-politically, but very personally hit by AI as a person with deep existential wounds and inquiries, since I'm sensitive to such advancements, bringing in new epistemologies and ontologies. My recent work is an Immersive Media Port project at a coastal town, a historical port of the British island facing Europe. We're transforming a 100-year-old house into an international residency space, an X Media and Immersive Media Lab. It's a homemaking, a port making, a portal making, a lighthouse making project in an era marked by immigration, displacement, uncertainty, a fast growth without a specific direction, a place of gathering, presence and creative attention. Across all of this runs one continuous thread: belonging, non-belonging, borders, exile, recognition, and the question of what it means to exist in relation to others, human or machine. This is the shift that defines my next chapter, my next even book. My intellectual work is moving from critique toward world making. My curatorial voice is becoming one of presence rather than compensation. This is what 2025 brought to me, and this is what I will carry to 2026.